All right, welcome back to the 2013 College Sailing APS Team Race National Championship presented by Laser Performance. I'm Chris Love,
I'm Zeke.
and we are bringing you live team race coverage. The course was just moved about, I don't know, a quarter mile almost.
It went far.
It went really far. The breeze was going left, which meant it was in the way, in the lee of the land out here on Tampa Bay, and they had to move the course. It's unfortunate for us because it's going to be a lot further away, but luckily we have this huge piece of machinery that we're shooting from. Oh, there's our logo again. A 30-foot scissor lift, and so we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're going to send you up there in just a second. Unfortunately, right before we started broadcasting, our camera went down. Well, we do have a wide shot of Tampa Bay, so we don't have to keep looking at our ugly mugs.
Hey,
Zeke's ugly
speak for
mug.
yourself.
Yeah, excuse me. Zeke's ugly mug.
Well, Roger Williams is racing against Texas. They just rounded Mark 2, and we missed the start on that, but all I can see is that black boats have a 1-2, looks like 5. So that's Roger Williams still with a comfortable lead in their second version of their race against Texas. And they're just so far away that that's pretty much all we can tell from here without our big camera up there.
I think the long break sitting in the sun made the camera cranky. We're gonna keep working on that, but we can it'd be like radio.
Yeah.
Just tell you what's going on.
It's a lot more pressure on us to do well, though.
Picture in your head. Well, it's tough for us too because we have this pier with a family fishing.
And a good old American flag.
So, as you can see on the right side of your screen, that's down. That's where the starting line is. All the boats are behind that pier, and so we don't have much of a view without our elevation. And it sounds like we may be getting our picture back. So, luckily,
we at least have confirmation that the lens cap is off. Step 1, remove lens cover.
I've had that problem before. All right, let's send it out to our 30-foot camera. Wow, that is a lot better. This is like watching the America's Cup.
This is nothing like watching the America's Cup. Have you seen those boats? They're nothing like these boats.
Well, they're a little faster. But we have team racing.
Which is better?
All right, so race 73, black and yellow, Roger Williams.
There they are.
Still continuing down the course. And is that the whole fleet? I only see 4 boats there. 2 Roger Williams boats.
That would be the lead group.
boats.
And then back there,
wow.
you see the little gap that the ace in the hole for Roger Williams has put in.
All right, so Roger Williams has a pretty, despite the distance between these boats in the lead, they have a pretty solid overall lead with that ace and that huge gap.
Absolutely.
And then next on the course, I guess they've already started here. Looks like red and blue boats. This is race 74. St. Mary's is in blue, and Washington is in red. And St. Mary's looks like they're winning 2 pairs, possibly all 3 pairs. That lead boat 16 out in the lead for St. Mary's.
That would be Fletcher Sims with Ainsley Thompson, I believe, for St. Mary's out in the lead. And St. Mary's is performing very well again this year at Nationals. They're right in the hunt, sitting right now, I think, tied for 4th, just a couple wins off the pace. Record of 7-3 at the moment. So once again, those guys are peaking at the right time. Got the ball rolling here.
University of Washington out from the Pacific Northwest. That's Carl Helsig, Sarah Redmond, Chris Thompson, Molly Utter, Zach Forsad, and Kaylin Cordray. The team from UW. They actually had a pretty nice season. They qualified for, I believe, for all 3 championships. I'll have to double check that information.
It looked like Washington just took a penalty there too, so that kind of puts the exclamation mark on St. Mary's domination up this first beat. Not just sailors out there on Tampa Bay, as you see a nice speedboat go by in the background this beautiful Memorial Day weekend. Got some fishermen in here close to shore.
Driving around town this week, running errands, seen a lot of boats on trailers getting ready to be launched. A lot of fishing tackle being purchased. Beverages. It's a good place to be for Memorial Day.
Not bad.
Well, St. Mary's looks like they're increasing this lead here. Just better positioning and also sailing faster around the course. And so St. Mary's off to a 1-2-3 start over UW.
And that's another one for St. Mary's. We were talking about just like Roger Williams there, sailing against Texas. These are kind of wins that you got to have if you're St. Mary's and Roger Williams. You're a contender here trying to make a Final Four appearance. Certainly not a gimme race, but they're races that you just can't mess around with. You got to get off to a big lead like both those guys have and not take these wins for granted. If we scroll or move over to the right, we can see that Roger Williams race going up the last beat now and pretty launched for those first two in Roger Williams. Still with that big gap, the ace in the hole. Looks pretty good for the Dodge.
I'm excited for this next race that's coming up back at the starting line. I don't know where they are in the sequence because we can't hear the horns anymore. But race 75 coming up. This will be Yale in green versus Georgetown in orange. And it looks like they're counting down to the last few seconds here. We got two Yale boats right there at the boat blocking out the rest of the fleet. Oh, but Georgetown scoots through between them and tacks right off the line. So Georgetown, oh boy, I thought Yale was going to have that start, but that's just our vantage point, I think.
Yeah, it looks like advantage Georgetown early here.
Definitely winning that pair on the right, and it looks like leading off to the left. But they do have, I think, also the 6.
And I think that was Alex Post and Katia De Silva for Georgetown starting at the boat. Both freshmen, aren't they? Alex Post, I believe, is a freshman for Georgetown. Maybe he's a sophomore. He's young. Started well all season. And interesting little momentum, going on there. Georgetown just took that loss to Roger Williams, one they would hope to win, and Yale just came off a big win against Charleston. So let's see how those guys can deal with the hot streak or cold streak.
And sailing for Yale, we got Chris Sagerbloom. He's a mechanical engineer from Costa Mesa, California. Did you know that when he was younger, he wanted to be a fighter pilot?
I actually knew that, yeah. I did know that.
He's sailing with Kate Galmond, we think, unless they've put in somebody else.
I hope he doesn't give up on that dream because he seems like he'd be a natural.
He could do it. He could do it. Graham Landy, the shortest sailor with the biggest personality in college sailing, leading up with Heather May. And Cam Coleman, possibly sailing with Marlena Fowler, but they may have switched out to somebody.
And look at this huge right shift we're seeing on the first beat. And that might even be a little bit of a current line happening out there. And Georgetown might be looking to go play 2 now for orange with that farthest green boat on the right maybe being in first. Hard to tell. We'll see now. There's a crossing situation coming. But certainly that looks like those first 2 boats are pretty launched and not crossing for Georgetown. So I'd be thinking that boat there, first boat for Georgetown in orange, might think about coming back. If we pan to the left here a little bit, we can keep an eye on that. And Yale able to get a lee bow there in the middle. So I'd certainly be thinking if I'm that lead boat for Georgetown, maybe sailing back to this back pair and going play 2, forgetting about being in first.
Yeah, it's not doing. They're not controlling that pair. They're
now
not really
sailing
doing
into a
themselves
pin
any favors by going off to that left side there.
And sailing into a hole, it seems.
Yeah, they're slowing down.
And that pair in the middle now is definitely advantaged Yale. So Georgetown now in 6th as well. So looks like maybe Yale's turning this thing around with a nice job up there in the front. Maybe Georgetown, I'm not sure who that is for Georgetown, may have gotten a little bit greedy up there in the 1.
Did I just see a dummy tack?
I don't know that it was a dummy tack. Could be.
It was certainly the same effect. We had the second place boat forcing the first place boat to tack away. But now he's coming right back, a double tack.
And so a bad piece of boat handling there for that Georgetown boat as well. Can you read that number? I can't read that number.
I think this one's 7. Yeah. That's a 7, that's an 8 for Georgetown.
So that'd be the low boat. That'd be Alex Post. So it looks like Georgetown's going to be coming out here in a 2-3-6. So the classic 1-4-5 versus 2-3-6.
And already you see that 5th place boat luffing that jib, trying to start the gap early.
So you'll see for the team with a 1-4-5 here, that's Yale. The whole race essentially comes down to holding on to the 1 and having this back pair just dominate the 6. So we call that putting a big gap in. So we'll look for this last green boat for Yale to sort of gap the last boat for Georgetown, as you see them doing right there.
Yeah, pretty much relentless trashing of the air for that 6th place boat.
And I'm a little surprised to see Georgetown, the 2 and the 3 for Georgetown, not playing back. Typically, when you've got a 2-3-6, the 2 and the 3 should be trying to play back and get their teammate out of 6, but it looks like they're going to chase the 1. If we pan to the right, we can kind of see what's going on there. But here you see a nice gap being put in by that last boat for Yale.
Oh boy.
A little mark trap there.
Did he leave the circle? I guess not.
So nice job. Can we tell who that is for Yale?
Right now we see a big playback.
Yeah, there they go.
But where is the rest of the fleet? Oh, maybe I'm confused. That's the red boats. They look similar from.
They sure do. So yeah, we see
screen.
the Georgetown still chasing
forward.
the 1.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the red and blue boats coming upwind. That would be St. Mary's and Washington. St. Mary's winning that race. So another W for the Seahawks. I am surprised. You'd think that top leg would be a good opportunity to at least check in and see if you can make a play there, or at least get in position to make the play on the downwind leg.
Yeah, it's kind of putting all your eggs in one basket, trying to chase the 1 and go play 1 if you're Georgetown, whereas the easier play would be to just play back, forget about the 1, and try to go into play 2 and try to work against that gap that last Yale boat is putting in.
All right, so if we pull back, we'll see the rest of the fleet off to the right. They're now approaching that mark 3, and this will be a test for Georgetown. They're not going to catch the 1 in time for the mark, but maybe they can. Maybe it's not too late to start playing back.
And it looks like maybe they are starting now to play back a little bit.
Is Yale hooked there in the middle? The middle 2 boats, I can't exactly tell what the overlap situation is. Nope, there goes Georgetown jibing back to starboard. So they are starting to attack now, trying to close that gap that Yale's been doing such a good job opening over these last 2 legs. And now we're going to see.
And now it looks like the 1 is getting involved as well. And the 1 should just be thinking, keep the 1.
Well, let's stick with Yale and Georgetown down there at the mark. Here we go with a double mark trap, perhaps, for Georgetown, but Yale also thinking that they might be able to break this up and hopefully, spring out play 1 if the opportunity arises.
So nice job by that.
There it is.
That second boat for Yale, who's in 4th place in the race, doing a really nice job pushing the 2 and the 3 around the course there. And now we see another gapping opportunity here for the last Yale boat as they go around the mark. So really nice job there by Yale.
Oh, they've got him good coming into that mark 3. That gap is opening right back up again. Georgetown's going to have to get to work on this final leg.
And again, Georgetown 2 and 3 there should be playing back really hard on that green boat who just tacked for Yale.
You'd think it would be a slam dunk right after the mark. Just get both boats lined up there, prevent him from tacking, prevent him from sailing. But instead,
they're not doing it.
Way up the course.
And maybe this is their play. Maybe this is what their coaches want them to be doing. We've talked about Georgetown kind of all season, or at least I have, maybe overperforming just a tiny bit with their youth and lack of experience, and I wonder if that's what we're seeing here at the Nationals.
Yeah, and you might be right about the play call. They're fast, they're speedy, but they don't have the same level of experience in these kinds of situations. So rather than make it technical and make it about execution of plays, they're thinking they're just going to go fast.
And it just looks to me like they're sort of halfway between if they're doing this or not. Now we see pretty aggressively sailing back to that 4th boat, but no jibs luffing. Certainly don't have a pin as you see that boat able to tack. And again, that 4th boat for Yale, the 2nd boat for Yale, 4th in the race, doing a really nice job pushing this race forward.
The problem for Georgetown is they're only about a half leg, maybe 3/4 of a leg from the finish. If they had done this earlier in the race, it'd be so much more opportunity to get it done. But now you see that first place boat from Yale coming back, getting involved. Even as this gap closes, Yale is opening up new opportunities.
Yeah, and there you see now the 5. I was just going to say that 5 for Yale, I think, should still be in gap mode, ragging their jib until you typically want to do that until your second teammate has crossed the finish line. So look for whoever that last Yale boat is there in green to start ragging their jib and really trying to open this gap up a little bit more. It looks like Yale is now passed ahead of one of the Georgetown players in that middle grouping. So maybe a play 1 opportunity is now we see that last Yale boat ragging their jib, trying to put that gap in. And so important, priority number 1 for Yale, just keep the 1. Worst case scenario is you stay 4. But now it looks like Yale has been sprung all the way through here, showing some good wheels. And looks like a pretty solid play 1 opportunity now for Yale. If he can cross. And he can. So a little bit too little too late there for Georgetown, it seemed like, on that last beat. Get caught down speed in the middle, and Yale just doing a fantastic job executing their play, turning a play 4 into a play 1. And let's see if the breeze will hold steady enough for them to get across the finish line.
Now we've been sort of one-track mind on this race here between Yale and Georgetown. The next one up is Brown and BC. Now, are they in those boats?
Brown and BC is in the pink and blue, who are, looks like, yeah, on their
looks
first.
Like right on screen there. So
Yep.
they're on their first beat coming up to the windward
And we've
mark.
got Brown in the pink ones, Boston College in the blue ones.
So this is race number 76 in the opening preliminary round.
And super light, looks like, out there.
Yeah, test of patience.
And I'm thinking Brown is, looks like, trying to go play 1. Looks like they have a 1-3 at the moment. Super light. Boat handling becomes even more important. And there in the background, it looks like Yale just crossing the line in the 1-2. So really nice job there by Yale, converting from a play 4 to a play 1, getting a big win against Georgetown, who continue to struggle a little bit here. Should be now 6-5. That'll be their 5th loss, I believe. So they're certainly going to be on the cusp of trying to break back into that Final 4.
Yeah, they're going to be in the danger zone now, looking at Roger Williams, Hobart, and Navy trying to get that 8th spot. As we see Brown and BC all stacked up at the windward mark there, slow getting around, but it looks like Brown in a 1-3-4 and got pretty good control of this race.
They sure do, but a 1-3-4 is not your typical stable combination, so let's see what they try to do here. There's a green flag we see from an umpire, so it will stay a 1-3-4 for Brown. Let's see how they play this. Definitely going to try to go play 1.
Now Brown is 8-2 after dropping a race to St. Mary's earlier this morning. They're 0-1 on the day.
And that boat number 6 for Boston College, doing a pretty nice job slowing things up at Mark II, and that should be, I think, Alex Cook, a senior, just graduated for BC, sailing with Laura McKenna. But it looks like Brown was able to get around there, huh?
Yeah, they had to slow up and make sure that both boats could get through without giving any room to the BC Eagles, but they got it done. I was going to say, boy, Laura McKenna, she's been to a few of these over the past few years. All-American crew out of BC, sailing several of these national championships.
Yeah, she's got a couple national championships under her belt, I would imagine. At least one team race and at least one fleet race. And I don't know if she did any women's, but
I don't think so.
she certainly got one of the more thick resumes for a crew here, and also just graduating.
We see interesting BC taking advantage of this sort of fluky wind, going fast on the inside lane to leeward of those other boats. You know, usually you might see them try to work high and try to take the wind of their competitors, but this boat 4, it looks like, is just moving fast. Tough though going to leeward, because you not only have to catch up and overlap, you have to get all the way ahead of and break the overlap. And with 2-on-1, that's going to be tough to do by the mark.
Absolutely. And if my information here is correct, that low boat number 4 should be Raul Rios, a freshman for Boston College, who's coming on strong here late in the season and certainly does have some speed.
Yeah, he's been very impressive. I got to talk to him last night briefly as they pulled the boats up, and hopefully we'll get to that interview a bit later. But BC, a young, talented team. I'd say this is a tough pool for them to compete this year. I'm not sure. I think they'd be pretty happy to be in the Final Four this year, but watch out for them in the next couple years.
Absolutely. Brown, on the other hand, their competitor, is a pretty veteran squad with Tommy Fink and Colin Smith kind of leading the charge for those guys. With Tyler Rice, who's a junior right now, but Tommy and Colin just graduated, and they've been doing this for a while, gotten really good. Certainly, that was my pick, actually, to get the job done here, so let's see if they can keep the momentum going. They're sitting right now in third with an 8-2 record.
You notice the pace of racing does seem to have slowed down a little bit, and I think that's because the distance needed to travel between the rotation beach and the course. But you can see the yellow and black boats headed out. These are your Charleston Cougars in black and Stanford Cardinal in yellow. They will be coming up shortly. Probably in the next 5 minutes we should see a start from them.
And look for it to, as we see more and more big yachts going by in the background, it's going to continue to get choppier and choppier, and I don't really see the breeze coming up much more, so conditions are certainly going to get tough with them so far out in Tampa Bay. Maybe they'll actually come back a little closer for us.
Yeah, I'm hoping if the breeze comes back right and comes up that we'll be able to move the course a little bit closer, although with this elevated camera,
with this scissor lift, man, this is a professional setup. So yeah, we got a big race coming up here between Charleston in black and Stanford in yellow. Charleston coming off 2 losses and now facing our regatta leaders at the moment, the Stanford Cardinal, who are going pretty well. So this is big for both teams.
Take a look at Brown getting hit with those waves, powerboat shop that you were talking about, as they try to get around the mark and hold that third place spot. Everybody's facing it, BC as well.
I don't know that I've ever seen a 1-3 last this long around the course. Typically they would have gotten that pass back done, but now with a slow tack there from the first BC boat, it looks like Brown should be off to the races here, running away with that ever important ace in the hole there. And boy, when I'm back there in the 5, even when my team's got a comfortable 1-2 in this type of condition, I'm just gapping the whole time as if it were a play 4, because things can happen so quickly. And it's just so important to keep that ace and keep those guys in the back so that if it does hit the fan, you can go back and be play 4 pretty aggressively. But looks like those first 2 Brown boats found some breeze, and they're raging pretty hard up that right side.
Yeah, but watching that 5th place boat, they do appear to be sailing just as hard, just as aggressively pushing that boat back.
Yep.
As if it were a close race.
And it's tough to cover as well when you're talking about those 2 first Brown boats. Every tack you can lose so much in this chop and get out of phase with the shifts. So it's really a difficult balance between trying to cover conservatively while racing forward as fast as you can, trying to play the shifts and just get across the finish line. And you can see how choppy it's gotten out there and puffy. Good breeze right now, though, and a big right shift there as boats. Oh, now they're getting auto-tacked. So you can see just how shifty it really is. And that's a big puff there. And they're probably just another few hundred yards from the finish here. Still got that ace there. That last Brown boat doing a great job keeping that guy behind. That's Tommy Fink, I believe, the high boat for Brown, keeping that nice little bit of a gap there between the 4 and the 5.
Justin Law pointing out on our chat room, we got a good conversation going about the conditions, pointing out that ridiculous current line, and you can really see it on the screen. I don't think any of our races have really gotten beyond it, though. It seems like everybody's been on this side of the line, so it's not affected the racing so far, but we'll see.
But certainly a factor, and we can just see right in front of our faces here, sitting by the seawall, the water's pretty high. It's going to be going out and getting stinky here. Yesterday it got pretty smelly when low tide came.
All right, well, it looks like Brown getting the job done. As I mentioned earlier, you know, I talked to a few sailors coming off the water. One of them was Raul Rios from Boston College. And while we get ready for the Charleston-Stanford race, let's take a look and hear what he had to say at the end of yesterday.